Welcome. I'm Robin McTague, and I'm here today to talk about making the invisible visible. From an early age, I really wanted to know why people did what they did. And so this has been a lifelong journey for me, understanding this at a really deep level. So maybe you want more clarity, you're in transition, you just want to know more about how to get more energy in your life, then this is for you. Independent of whether we have high IQs or low ones, whether we are tall or short, or whether even we are rich or poor, perhaps the biggest single determinant of the quality of our lives is how motivated we are at any given moment and over prolonged periods of time. And this is from one of the books that I've studied and I'm a practitioner of. So what is motivation, you may ask? It's the internal reason which prompts us to act in certain ways and directions. The old way of thinking about motivation was from the outside in, that we have these external rewards along with internal. Think about it. Can anyone make you do what you don't want to do? Chances are no. And that's because it comes from within. So this is a fallacy that we want to bust. So I'll simplify it even more. Motivation equals energy. It's that drive that we have, and the root word of motivation comes from drive. So drive and energy are words that describe motivation. And it's kind of like electricity, right? It moves both ways, and we don't always see it or really know how it's happening. So why is it important? Well, how can we assess what we want to do in life, make our life choices? Wouldn't it be great if we had a way to really understand what is important to us? So the old model of motivation was the carrot and stick model, right? There's this reward that you're going after. You have to be disciplined and go in this line. And we were all motivated by money. Again, this is a myth. We actually have different motivators, even within us, and each person is different. Yes, that may be the reason. Maybe someone else wants to make a difference. Maybe the other person really wants to be an expert in what they do. There's many different reasons that we get motivated and energized. When you're motivated, you have a clear sense of purpose, energy, perseverance, and resilience. Demotivation is less defined and is often not something we are conscious of. It creeps up on us. And so there's this up and down with motivation, which we feel, and we want to understand more. So there was a cohort of individuals that did a lot of study around motivation. And Daniel Pink's Drive was one of those books that talks about it. And within that cohort was James Sale. And he created out of this information a diagnostic tool to help to understand motivation. It's highly accredited through the ISO system and provides really great information. So where does motivation come from, you may ask? Our past. If you think about it, our family, people we're surrounded with, whether it's teachers, bosses, education and experience, television, social media. I know for myself, books was really important. I was a real reader as a kid because I was on my own a lot. But when my brother came back to live with us, I was around 12. He introduced me to science fiction, and it's something I love today. And I really probably wouldn't have been exposed to it for some time later. And we can draw our own conclusions, right? We can create these self-fulfilling prophecies. Maybe it's, I have a certain shirt that I love and I wear that to the game because my team wins. Or it could be any kind of patterns or things that you put together in your way of thinking. The present relates to our self-concept. How do I see myself right now, right? That does change over time. And then future expectations. Maybe you have a 5-year plan and you're moving towards that. or maybe you're feeling challenged with that. So our positive or negative expectations can flavor that. So how do we capture this information? For the past, James looked at a bunch of different personality systems, and he decided the Enneagram was the most clear and direct way of finding that information. And our personality basically stays the same, although we have ways that we work with it. That basic way that we came in through our temperament stays the same, although our culture, our learning, all of that can flavor it. So the Enneagram is a dynamic tool for both our spiritual and psychological growth. And it helps us to see the way that we see the world, that kind of reality that we see for ourselves, that strategy. And so that basically stays the same. For the present, he looked at Edgar Schein's career anchors. And this was a tool created to align our values with our career. And he had a number of indicators, because so often we don't choose ourselves, right? It's circumstances, we fall into a job, or maybe it's a family way of wanting you to be, maybe it's, I want you to be an engineer because that's what we think is good in this family. So it helped people to get more in alignment. And the future, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So this is a theory in psychology of motivation where we have to deal with the bottom part of the pyramid before we can move up a level. And as we move up, we go towards self-actualization. If you think about it, if we don't have our basic needs met, how can I think about self-actualization? I need to take care of getting food on the table right now. So this system brings together Edgar Schein's career anchors, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the Enneagram into this tool for growth and understanding of what drives our behavior called the motivational map. And we see this pyramid, and over on the right, you see this approach to change, the speed, and at the bottom, uncomfortable and slow. So this gives us a lot of information about ourselves. How do I like to deal with change? Am I really resistant and it takes me a long time to change? Or do I love to change like that? So either end of the spectrum, there can be consequences because we don't think things through or we wait too long to actually make the change. And that speed may not take into account everything that we need to consider. It also tells us about our communication styles. Near the top, again, quick, give me the bottom line. Down at the bottom, it's like, I need a lot of information. I love that consistency, and please give me the information. So let's talk about specifics. So this is the cluster analysis, and this is kind of the high level. And so there's 3 clusters you'll see: the relationship, the achievement, and the growth. And it helps us to see how we see the world and how others see us in the world. The score is not about your intelligence, your personality, your strengths, or what you can or cannot do. It's how you're feeling right now, and it can and will change. So here's some examples. So these are what we call the RAG score: relationship, achievement, and growth. On the left, you see they're fairly even. So that shows us this particular person has more flexibility with their motivators. They can kind of use different ones because it's comfortable to them. On the right, we see 1, the achievement is higher. And so that can go from a want to a need. If I don't have that ability to achieve, then I'm not going to feel satisfied. So it just gives us information. It tells us about our mental energy distribution, how you prefer to achieve your motivation, your primary communication, decision-making, and speed of action styles. So here's the 9 motivators or dimensions of motivation. So we have all 9, but not all of them are motivators. There's no right or wrong. There's challenges and gifts with all of them. It really depends on the context. And entrepreneurs often tend to be in the growth. They tend to have the higher growth because they do love that freedom and the different things that come with the growth motivators. We just have to be careful of the shiny object syndrome and learn to bring in that completing the tasks that we've started. So here's a couple of examples of different people sequencing. So you can see there's 9 in each of those. And the colors, again, correspond to the different clusters. And often I see anywhere between 3 to 5 motivators. That's fairly common. Sometimes people have more. We never have usually less than 3. And those top 3 are the most important. They give us the most information and most energy. It accounts for 60 to 70% of our behaviors. And there's no naming of these sequences because there's over 1 million combinations. Can you imagine what that would intake? And we can look for internal conflicts, stresses, tensions, not only within us, but with other people. But within us is really important because that will really tell you, do I take 2 steps forward, 5 back? Because I'm having that push-pull within me and I'm not sure why. So the searcher really wants to make a difference. They're not so concerned with what is the outcome. I want to make that difference. The builder wants some reward because they want a lifestyle that gives them the freedom, the things that they want, and often money and different reward strategies like that helps them to achieve that. So then once I'm aware of that, I can pull it apart and say, right now in my life, I need to work with my builder more. And so 80% of my time is going to be doing things that bring some reward towards my lifestyle. Now, in that other 20%, I can do pro bono work, I can do volunteer work, whatever it is, to allow me to have that need met. And then I'm not feeling that tension so much. So we get an overall score for our motivation, and you can see there's 2 different charts at the bottom. So these are your top 3 motivators, and that's what the score is based on. How well are they being met? If we're in the boost zone, for example, just a few tweaks could get us into optimal. If we're in the optimal zone, how can we stay there? To sustain that level of energy takes some thinking and some reward strategies and different things to keep you there, because it's easy to slide down when you're at the top. At the same hand, if you're in the action zone, if you're in a job, is your foot already out the door? If you're an entrepreneur, are you thinking about quitting or giving up? So these pieces give us a lot of information. Now, the reason I got into the Enneagram was because the motivational map, and I'm now a certified teacher. And I love how they work together. The Enneagram gets more to that core of who we are in our personality and our reality strategies, and gives us a way to expand our options to see other ways. So it's a dynamic path for growth, getting to see what are my blind spots, what are those patterns, and gain clarity and confidence in your gifts to the world, and how to sustain that movement with the motivational map. So they work so well together. Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. So you may have questions. I want to say thank you for being here. Please reach out wherever you see this video, and I would love to have a chat with you to see if I can support you or point you in another direction if there's some other area that you need support in. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.